The Four Leaf Clover podcast is sponsored by Planet Celtic.
Evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Friday focus show on the Four Leaf Clover podcast. It is a post-match show after our first victory of the pre-season. Queen's Park 0, Celtic 1. Paddy, how has your past couple of days been, sir, since our last podcast?
I've been all good, Scott. Just pleased to see the weekend again. So just looking forward to the pod tonight, and then the weekend can start for real.
Certainly can, mate. It's certainly can. And Andy, I see you're back home, sir. So do you get an early finish a day? How's the week been this week for you?
Busy, mate. I've been up and down the country a couple of times and just the usual. Glad to be home. I actually did get a half decent finish today. I think it was finished for half 12, 1 o'clock, something like that. So, no bad. Can't complain too much. Away again, early start Monday morning, so make the most of the... Need to get down to Bristol on Monday, so I'll need to leave early. Make the most of the weekend, mate. So, got on here, watching Celtic tonight, obviously. Good to see us back, albeit a kind of skeleton squad. The young ones, majority of it. But good to see Celtic back on the park again, which is a good thing. So, and then obviously being on here with you guys is always a bonus.
Aye, it certainly is. Kaiser, I saw you earlier on the stream for John Clark's funeral. I was watching it myself, which we will get into. But how has your week been, mate? How's your week been?
Yeah, excellent week since Wednesday, lads. Living my best life. Thanks to everybody in the comments for being here as well. Make sure you're smashing that like and that for the lads. It's the only thing that helps combat the YouTube algorithm. If you're brand new, smash subscribe. And thank you all for being here. Good evening, every last one of you. But yeah, Scotty, mate, living my best life. Just trying to, one day at a time, as the quote goes, mate. One day at a time.
Good man, good man, good man. So we've got quite a lot of things that have happened since Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. And on Wednesday night, we picked our last member of the Last Man Standing in our Four Leaf Clover podcast, Celtic 11. And it went to Thomas Burns. That is our complete Last Man Standing Celtic team that the guys on the podcast panel have picked. Let's just go through it quickly. Artur Boruc is number 1. Danny McGrain gets the number 2 jersey. Kieran Tierney got the number 3. Roy Aitken got the number 4. Virgil van Dijk got the number 5. Neil Francis Lennon got the number 6. James A. Forrest got the number 7. Paul McStay got the number 8. Henrik was always going to be the striker. Lubo was always going to be the number 10. And Tommy Burns got the number 11 jersey. And we have got one last belter for you this evening. The lads need to pick a manager to manage this side to go up against the Lions. This is managers that we've seen in our time. So obviously it won't be Jock Stein, as many of you have already alluded to. We're going to pick our manager tonight that gets the beauty of managing that side. So before we do that, we've got quite a few things to talk about. And obviously the main thing that happened today, I just spoke to Kaiser there briefly about it, was John Clark's funeral. I saw a few of you in the comments on the live stream that watched the podcast. Very, very, very sad. Very sad watch. So it was a few famous faces, obviously. Good to see Roy Keane and Ian Wright there. His fellow line, Jim Craig, was there. Mm-hmm. KT was there. The lassie that was singing as well, she was some chanter, so she was. But I think the highlight for me was Archie McPherson, his eulogy on John Clark was something to behold. If you've not seen it, I've noticed that Celtic have put it on their YouTube page. I think it's about an hour and 40 minutes. Did you manage to get to watch it, Paddy?
No, I didn't see it, Scott. I was at work.
Right.
I never saw it. I just saw a few of the wee the wee short clips and that. But just what we said the other night, it's just very, very sad occasion, and we've said it before, we're losing these guys more and more every year. Then another couple of them disappear, and even though guys that are left, you can see Jim Craig, you can see the toll that it's taken on Jim this afternoon. It's been a rough few days for him as well. So just another part of the history just disappearing over the horizon, and just very, very sad for his family. And I think the weather in Glasgow today, I think, just reflected the mood, very somber mood. And but such a turnout for the funeral. Like, again, the Celtic fans have done him proud. I heard Jerry on the commentary and during the game tonight saying that John Clark would probably be embarrassed that his funeral was on the day of a game, which is just speaks volumes for the man. It just tells you the kind of a man that he was. Just as we touched on there recently, just a real old-fashioned Celtic man. The kind of guys that we all knew growing up, and we all aspired to be a Celtic man like that. We just wanted to be known as a Celtic man. But listen, it was a fantastic tribute to him. I plan to go back and watch as much over again as I can when I get a chance this evening. Just to, I've done that with some of the rest of them as well, and but just very, very sad, Scott. It's just been, from the minute I heard the news, you're just, as I say, these guys created history, and as we've said before, they did something that will never ever be done again by anybody in any country. It just will never ever be done again. It's impossible for that to happen now with the money in the game. It just won't happen. So they will live forever in the memory of the Celtic support. And as we touched on the other night, the Lisbon Lions are just, they're a team of icons for every single one of us. We probably all got to see them playing whenever they were sort of at their end. But we just, you have the memories from handed down from your grandparents and your parents, about them, telling you stories about these guys. And as I say, you've seen the people who were there, the likes of Roy Keane, Ian Wright, just to name a few. That's just a high regard that John Clark was held in. So listen, a lovely ceremony. Very, very sad for his family and very sad for the Celtic family. But John Clark will now go into the history books, and he will never ever be forgotten. Certainly not by the Celtic support.
Yeah, it's definitely something I would recommend going back to watch, Paddy, when you get the opportunity, sir. Very, very sad, but Archie McPherson's eulogy was unbelievable. So it was the knowledge for a guy, and I think he's in his late 80s now, Archie, and he looks tremendous, by the way. He looks like he's still in his 60s, and to still have that memory and the way he spoke so beautifully about Celtic, Andy. We spoke about it in the green room before we came on. Unbelievable for Archie McPherson, wasn't it, mate? And just very, very sad to watch it, obviously, as well.
I actually only caught up to the point where Archie started talking, and I actually said that in the chat. That was just sensational. One of the inspirational kind of speeches you'll always remember. Somebody that could probably only kind of match Archie when it comes to words like that is Hugh McIlvanney. His voice, the way he put things across. I was a big fan of Hugh McIlvanney, but obviously, Archie at the age he is, not a Celtic supporter, but holds Celtic in very high regard and has done for many, many years. And he actually admitted that today. He was privileged to be there in Lisbon to see the Lisbon Lions day with the day, or day with the done. And it was just magnificent words for Archie, a true kind of icon in Scottish football. He's been there since all the others have been about growing up, and he's been the voice of kind of Scottish football. And I know they made funny Archie on what was it again? The Only an Excuse Man at the woof, with the hair and all that, but he is an iconic figure when it comes to journalism in Scotland, and a true character, but an absolute gentleman. Yeah, guy. Always did enjoy listening to Archie McPherson. I know people are saying he went on a wee bit and stuff like that. I could have listened to him all day. Just fantastic stuff, and genuine, not just words coming out his mouth, but you could tell, this is stuff from memory. He was close to Jockstein. In fact, I think Jockstein actually fell out with him. But he was really, Aye, he was very well until it suited Jock that he wanted certain things out there. I'll
The
tell you.
paper, that's right.
Aye, then he would, which I think he actually done when he was at Leeds and used Archie to put it out there that he wanted the Scotland job, you know. So,
Correct, that's right.
Yep. So it was. I've got a lot of time for Archie McPherson. Always, you know, growing up, he was always there, always kind of commentating on games and stuff like that. But a guy that's been there and done it and seen us do it as well. So, fantastic words. And just touching on John Clark, you know, every one of them's going to be immortal. You know, that they always will be. They'll be the greatest team that we have ever had. And it's going to be, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, but it's going to take something special to match anywhere near what the Lisbon Lions done. And really a really sad service, but fantastic to see the tributes that John got and thoroughly deserved as well. Good to see it at St Mary's as well, you know.
Yeah, aye, it was brilliant. And Kaiser, I said it earlier, I seen you in the comments and I had a wee smile on my face straight away. I was going to get the laptop out and say a few words as well, but I just finished my night shift. I was sort of falling asleep. But I thought, I'm not going to miss this, and I'm glad I never missed it. I'm glad I stayed up and got to see it. It was beautiful to watch, to be honest with you. The singer was, you know, just touched your soul, really, to be honest with you. And Archie McPherson as well, just brilliant. Stephen McManus as well, we was reading, I thought was brilliant. It was good to see wee Jamesy and Callum down the front with KT and Neil Lennon and Brendan Rodgers and just Dermot Desmond every day. It was good to see everybody there paying their respects. A very, very sad day in the history of our club.
Yeah, Scotty, mate. Very sombre experience. Found myself in torrents of tears. And then I think someone in chat, I don't know if it was Monty, right? And the stream actually glitched and froze for a couple of seconds. And somebody wrote in chat, frozen. And Monty, I think it was, wrote in, pulling a jumper hen. You know what I mean? And I went for torrents of tears to sitting here laughing. But very much, very, very sombre. And as you say, right, Archie McPherson, whatever your opinions are in the man, the voice over radio, the voice of my youth, sitting listening to the old transistor radio, and it's Archie's voice coming over and him emphasising the emotion of the game and the way he spoke today, Stephen McManus as well, the way he spoke was just so eloquent, so beautiful. The service was beautiful. The singer was top class. I think she sang a Sinead O'Connor song. I don't know the exact name of the song. I did Google it earlier on to try and find out and remember, but it was just stunningly beautiful. And I was, as I says, I went for torrents of tears, to a sense of pride, to a sense of being ashamed as well, legends, because I live in Glasgow. I'm right here. I thought to myself, I should be there. I should have went. I should have represented a younger generation who never even got to see the Lions play, but how they still affect our modern day life and modern day youngsters forever and ever throughout the annals of time. Legends never die, and we will always, always remember the Lisbon Lions, perhaps the greatest sporting achievement that's ever been done, right up there with winning the World Series or, I don't know, amazing American football stories and right that they make movies about. Absolutely amazing. I don't know how long it's going to be before they make a movie about the Lisbon Lions. And I remember thinking today, within 30 miles of paradise, every one of these players were born. And within 30 miles of paradise, every one of these players will be buried and interred. And maybe perpetual light should shine down upon them. Absolute legendary status. And I know I call everyone a legend. In my mind, right, everyone is a legend. But it's very easy to fall from that pedestal. And the man we saw buried today, he carried that mantle of a living legend, a Celtic man, a kit man. Brendan Rodgers says, that man next door, you should be in there folding his shirt. He shouldn't be folding your shirts. A lesson in humility, life lessons, a family man. His family must have been so proud to see the service, and as Andy said, St Mary's Chapel as well, absolutely beautiful. As soon as I turned it on, I seen the Portugal flags, and I was thinking of Jota and his brother passing away in the car crash, and instantly there. I had tears in my eyes right from the start. And let's just say the singer, the lady who was singing, I don't know her name, absolutely fantastic. Tugged on the heartstrings, the hymns they chose, the service, everything. Paddy, if you're going to go back and watch that, my man, I recommend a large box of Kleenex and a few hours, mate, to just like digest it, watch it, and then pour over it again, mate, and deal with the emotion that's going to flood forward. I didn't even realise I had that kind of emotion in my heart for the Lions, considering I never watched them play in the flesh, but to feel it flooding forward, it was like my own grandfather had passed away and his achievements in life, what it truly was to be a man in that day. And I was thinking back to his father passing away in a railway accident and how he was the man of the house at 10 years old and earning a wage and supporting the family. And it was so, at the same time, it was very oppressive, but very uplifting as well. The service, the eulogies, everything about it, the people in attendance. How can you, if only any of us would be so privileged to have that sort of attendance or turnout. I seen Roy Keane collecting Holy Communion as well, and I was like, wow, man, Roy Keane there as well. Just utterly amazing to see members of the first team there as well. Kieran Tierney, Callum McGregor. It was fantastic, a fantastic service. I certainly hope Glasgow Celtic put their hand in their pocket and paid for that service. I know they offer every family of ex-players to pay for the service, but I certainly hope that Glasgow Celtic made that happen, because to make that happen and to have it on the YouTube as well, lots of people were complaining about adverts and stuff popping on the YouTube, and I just commented and said, I just hope the money that they make, the monetization, over 40,000 people watched. I hope that comes back to the family in some way, shape or form. I hope it comes back in. But yeah, absolutely fantastic, mate. Torrid of emotion.
Aye, it certainly was a very, very sad day in the history of the club. That was him passing Celtic Park for the very last time. We've only got 3 Lions left. Very, very sad times. And as all the lads said, you know, we felt as though we knew every single one of them personally. That's how humble every single one of the Lions were. All the way from Billy McNeil down to, you know, wee Jinky. They were all exactly the same. Just normal guys. No big shots in the team. Aye, and just a very, very sad day for Celtic Football Club. So, you know, God rest you, John Clark, and God rest the rest of the Lions that have departed us. So another thing that happened this evening, ladies and gentlemen, was our first pre-season friendly. We all just watched it there. That's why we're on a wee bit later this evening. We wanted to give you all an opportunity to watch the game. This was the starting lineup that Celtic put out. Any surprises in there for you, Paddy, or on the bench? And did you manage to get to see the game? And what was your thoughts on it, pal, as well?
Aye, I did, Scott. I managed to see it okay. It worked okay, worked fine. The stream was good. No glitches. No, not really any surprises with the lineup. We said the other night that I just thought it would be a mixture of, you know, young development players on maybe 1 or 2 of the first team, and it was nice to see Callum, Luke McCown, and Arne Engels as well. Well, do you know what? It was the proverbial game of 2 halves. That's what happens in these games when you make an entire change of outfield players at half time. But it was good to see Ross doing. I was really pleased to see him getting a wee start. And to be fair, I think anything he had to do in the first half, he did very, very well. Celtic totally dominated the game in the first half. We were very strong in the middle of the field with, you know, basically our first team, you know, McGregor, McCown and Engels. We were very, very strong. I was very, very impressed with Colby Donovan down the right-hand side and also Jude Bonner. I thought Bonner put in some beautiful balls in, cutting back onto his left foot in the first half. Some really, really good deliveries, but just nobody on the end of them, you know. So it was good to see that. Adam Montgomery as well. Adam Montgomery seems to have bulked up a wee bit from the last time I seen him. So maybe that wee spell away on loan and stuff that he had has maybe done him the world of good as well. But totally dominant in the first half. We should have gone in more than 1-0. The goal when it came was a wee bit of a fortunate lucky break, but when the ball was cut back, Johnny Kenny, it was a sublime finish. Just finished it one touch, bang, and it was behind the goalkeeper before he saw. But then, as I say, you go in at half time, you're leading 1-0. They make 10 outfield changes, and they made another couple in as the game went on. And when that happens, Scott, then you lose the whole flow of the game. The entire flow goes out of the game. And Queen's Park were making a lot of changes as well. So, you find that the game just sort of peters out, and that's exactly the way it turned out. We could and should have scored another couple. We had a great effort from young By Summers that come off the crossbar. And young Francis Turley looked really good when he came on the second half as well. He looked really bright and sharp and confident. So listen, it looks good for us. The future looks good. There's quite a few of those young lads there. Will be, Mitchell Frame's another one. The likes of Jude Bonner, Colby Donovan. These guys will be looking to push on. Young Sean McCardle. These guys will be looking to push on this season and maybe try and make some kind of an impact and get into the first team. But listen, for the first game, it was just nice. Tonight was all about just getting minutes into the legs. That's all it was about. And he's given everybody a run out there. Probably when we go down to Cork on Tuesday, it'll probably be a stronger team than that there. But again, these games are simply about getting fitness and getting the guys minutes into their legs. That's all it's about. But at the same time, you never want to lose any football match. So it was just nice to start off the pre-season preparations with a 1-0 win.
Yeah, and Andy, if we're going to have a wee affiliation with Queen's Park, then they had an array of our youngsters to choose from. And hopefully Scott Brown, Neil Lennon and Mark Wilson can maybe take a couple into the championship as well, mate. Just exciting times ahead, mate, if that's the youngsters that we're bringing through. And hopefully we can get them to a better standard in the B-League this year. The B team, the Lowland League. I know you watched the game with myself and Kaiser in the green room. What was your thoughts on it, mate, from what you've seen? I know we were doing some bits and bobs and having a chat and stuff, so we didn't have eyes on the full game. But from what you've seen, were you happy?
Certainly with the second half, I thought they passed that about very well. Played some really nice stuff. Terrible conditions. Cracken Park, actually, really good conditions. It's a nifty wee stadium they've got there and ideal for what they need it for, Obviously, with Hamden in the background there. I think we knew it was going to be that kind of lineup. Majority is the B team players, but you've got 5 first team players in there, I would say. I include Kenny in that as well. It looks as if he's off, actually, so he could be away. So it might be our last look at him. We'll just need to wait and see. But I obviously get the goal tonight, got the win. And I think, I was just happy seeing Celtic on the park, whatever version of Celtic that would be. It definitely had that first game of the pre-season feel about it. But it was just good to see Celtic back on the park. I wasn't expecting to be a team full of first-team starters. I don't think any of us did. So no real surprises with the line-up there. Good to see wee Frame back as well. Somebody had a kind of fleeting appearance in the team, and then I think he got injured, and then he just kind of fell away a wee bit out the squad. Big Dane Murray as well, big unity, a boy. That's what I like about him, the physicality as well. Obviously, he's got a lot of learning today, but the way things are going, it's looking as if he's going to be some kind of backup to CCV, because Big Rocky looks as if he's away. So it leaves us a wee bit kind of thin and bare in that position. So he could maybe see himself with an opportunity. Obviously, there's still a lot of time in the transfer window to go, so we'll wait and see what happens with incomings and outgoings. But I think just happy to see the team back on the park. Good to see the youngsters getting a wee run out as well. So I think getting into the next couple of games, we'll start to see more first team players filtering through and getting more game legs, which is the ones, as much as you want to see the young players coming through, we want to see the guys that are going to be doing the business this season, and seeing obviously the new signings as well. You've got Osmond there and this season Nygren as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Another thing I mentioned as well, Kaiser, in the green room, is that Queen's Park have actually played 3 games already. They've got the League Cup group match, I believe, the weekend coming up. So, I mean, for Celtic to go in there and put that performance in already, you know, for what was meant to be like a training game for us, it was a really good performance, you know, both halves. What did you think, mate? And what did you think of the starting lineup as well, pal?
Yeah, obviously I was disappointed not to see Osmond and Nigren in the lineup. I understand Inamura's come in. I was very impressed with Doohan. He was taking the ball back. Good foot control for a goalkeeper. Responded well under pressure. Good distribution. I was well impressed with him. And like Paddy, his Irish eyes were smiling there when he said Kenny rattled the ball in the net. I just seen his Irish eyes smiling, and Ben Summers' effort and stuff like that as well. And as you says, we were in the green room and I was watching a bit of the game and also conversing with the lads, a bit of getting to know each other. We actually put a link out in the Discord to bring anybody in who wanted to come in and just discuss before. So we were sitting in there and just chatting away while watching the game. I was thoroughly impressed. As you said, Scotty, Queen's Park already had a few games in their build-up. They're much more firing. And that was a lot of youth players that we had on there. And the level of talent that we've got in our youth ranks is overwhelming. I was watching that and I was like, okay, they might not be household names yet. They might not be the names that we desire for huge transfer fees and budgets and first-team starters that everyone demands. But I was quietly very, very impressed with how we played, especially in the second half. I mean, Queen's Park never even got a look in. It was keep ball. It was Real Madrid standards at the standards we were playing at. And Andy's spot on as well. Lesser Hampden, very good ground, very well developed, exactly fits its purpose, takes advantage of the National Stadium being in the background. It's got a nice backdrop. It's like something out of FIFA. A training stadium or Pro Evolution Soccer, something you would expect to see in a video game. I was very impressed with how we played. I was very impressed with some of the young guys, Bonner and stuff on the wing, the way they linked up as well. You could see the understanding between the youngsters, and really it stood testament to how that we were saying it should be a unified system across both squads, across all squads, all the way down into the lower ranks. It should be a unified. Well, beating Queen's Park isn't it for everybody. Some people just recruit players for there.
Kaiser, that's the thing that Kingston boys said there. You know, we've just beaten a team that actually put the richest club in the world at the Scottish Cup last year. So fair play to them, and that's it. Off half of your B team squad in that team.
Well, everybody knows, Andy, that the Zombies have got arachnophobia because they're fear of spiders. Everybody knows that, mate, and I think they're also the new Saints as well. Also put them to the sword. So for our first build-up game, for me, these are very early signs that everything's firing. Everything's firing in training. Celtic looked at the races, even though it wasn't the squad or the lineup that I expected. Everyone looked at the races. They all looked like they were right in about it, and I was delighted to see it. I can only imagine the quality rising and rising as the quality of opposition picks up, and also getting a look at other players when we go to play Cork and stuff like that. And yeah, mate, yeah, you're spot on. That comment there just like knocked me through a loop. No, just knocked me through a loop. Something else we spoke about is obviously Queen's Park and other managers out there, Scott Brown, Neil Lennon. They've got an opportunity to take a good look at these youth players that Celtic have got there in the Lowland League, who are really cuts and cuts above that. They could take them in, take them on loan. I think Celtic should be making that happen, as well as Queen's Park as well. Every player we loan that hurts our adversaries is a successful loan, in my opinion.
Aye, spot on points here. Just one quick one for you, Andy. Somebody in the comments here said the Discord link wasn't working. Is that something we can put in the community page again tonight for folk to join, sort of thing?
Aye, for after the pod, I can do that.
We'll get that in the community post later on, ladies and gentlemen.
Andy's whipped it in mobile, cancelled all the Russian ham stuff up, Paul. And he's trying to share the link.
I don't know. My phone's just died. I don't know why. Yeah.
We'll sort it
That's
out.
for the Aussie, Andy.
We'll sort it out after the pod. So moving on, ladies and gentlemen, Patrick, we have won a watch by the looks of things. Remember this guy when he was that good? He used to win Man of the Match awards.
Yeah.
I think that was probably his last good game for Celtic when he got the Player of the Match. We have won a watch, ladies and gentlemen, £17.2 million, €20 million, Paddy, for Nicholas Kuhn. Can't even believe it, to be honest with you. What a great bit of business by Celtic again.
It is, Scott, and it's very simple. The guy didn't want to be there, plain and simple. He hasn't looked happy for quite some time. I saw myself, getting off the bus at St Johnstone that day, and the guy just looked as if he did not want to be there, period. He fell off a cliff round about Christmas or the New Year. Never ever got back to the standards that he set in the first half of the season. And I think for me, the gesture to the fans at Dundee United on the day that we won the title, he was making it all about him, as if to say, shut the fuck up, whatever was he trying to say to the supporters about the criticism that was rightly coming his way at the time.
Yeah.
So, listen, it's a no-brainer, Scott. I'm not going to shed any tears over Nicholas Kuhn or anybody else. The guy doesn't want to be there. If he doesn't want to be there, then we facilitate his exit. It's as simple as that. And for us to get the contribution that we got from him altogether over the couple of years, the trophies he helped us win, we only paid $3 million for him. And to get that kind of a profit for a guy that doesn't want to be there and is unhappy, it's just fantastic business. It's another example of, if our friends on the other side of the city are watching how business should be done, that's exactly how it should be done. You don't let players run down their contracts. You don't keep unhappy players. You cash in on them. If they don't want to be there, that's absolutely fine. Brendan's only interested in people who are committed to the club and committed to the cause and are buying into what he wants to do. I saw somebody today commenting that they felt that he's never been the same since Jota came back. And there's maybe a certain amount of truth in that as well. But for whatever the reason, Scotty, it's immaterial. I'm not that bothered about it now anymore. Nicholas Kuhn, cracking wee player on his day, fantastic player. But we've lost far better players and far more important players than Nicholas Kuhn, and we've survived the very best. So I'm not concerned about that at all. Brendan will get a sizable chunk of that money to go and sign a replacement. And who knows? Maybe with Nygren in the building, he's already got the replacement. We don't know until we see this guy actually playing. But no, it's another example, as I say, of how well our club is being run. They didn't try to do anything funny or whatever. The guy just made it clear he didn't want to be there through his agent, and Celtic facilitated him with the move. So that's exactly how it should be. So I certainly won't be losing sleep over Nicholas Kuhn.
Yeah, and Andy, we've all said it. He's since the Bayern Munich game, he just completely down tools. As did some other players, by the way. To be honest with you, but Nicholas Kuhn was neck and neck with Dyson Maeda for Player of the Year, and then as Paddy said, mate, he just fell off a cliff. This was the last good game that he had for me, and to get £17.2 million for a guy we paid £3 million for 18 months ago is just incredible business again by Celtic. The business model is unbelievable, isn't it, Andy?
They certainly know what they're doing when it comes to selling players, and not only just selling them, but the add-on clauses and stuff like that is still paying dividends with players that have been away for Celtic for a few years now. Kuhn is a half-season wonder, and the fact that we've made such a good profit on him is credit to Celtic, because I actually gave him a benefit of the doubt. Obviously, I had his first season issues, and then a fantastic start. Even the pre-season, he was a star, right up to the Munich game, probably you could say, and then it just fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I put it down to the way he looked a wee bit unhappy. I've got to be honest with you, I think he's always looked unhappy. I think he's one of these players that just looks as if he's always in a huff. And I put it down to that he looked really unhappy after kind of Munich, that he was disappointed in his own drop-off in performances, and that he was probably more frustrated than anything else. And I don't think it is that. I think it's the fact that he just didn't want to be here. He made that quite obvious. the fact that he's willing to go to Como rather than stay at Celtic and win trophies and, you know, play in European competitions says it all for me. Is that the reason why he's had so many clubs and wasn't fancied elsewhere, Leipzig and Bayern Munich and stuff like that, you know? Just decides to turn it on whenever he wants. We don't need players like that. We certainly don't need players with that attitude in the dressing room. I think it affects your whole squad when you've got players like that. A bad apple, it just spreads. So I'm happy enough that he goes, and the fact that we're making really good business on him as well. Hopefully, you know, we invest that in the squad. You know, we've got hundreds of money in the bank.
Yeah.
This is the time to, as much as we like project players and young guys coming through, let's not, you know, take your eye off the road here when it comes to progression. So we need to up our quality. So we need to get somebody in that was better than Kuhn. You know, whether Kuhn's here or no, we need better players than him. We're going to have a wee look at the squad in a wee bit, and we'll have a better idea that you take certain players out that are now away. We need to up the quality and bringing them in, because sometimes you look at it, you go, a couple of wee injuries, you're threadbare with our squad when it comes to quality and experience. So there's a wee bit of experience with a couple of players that have been brought in. I'd like to see a wee bit of quality. So money for that and money we've already brought in. But at the moment, we're still at a net spend when it comes to transfers, you know, with the amount of money we've brought in. Probably about 20 million already this season. So I want to see a wee bit invested in the squad on some serious quality coming in. If we are going to be serious about attacking Europe and making that next step, we need that kind of level of player. No 20-year-old prospects that haven't made first-team appearances. You might get away with that domestically in certain games. Certainly no European competition in big games when you're really needing experience and real quality. So, see you later, Nicholas Kuhn. Don't let the door hit your arse on the way out. He certainly wasn't happy here. So if a player isn't happy at Celtic, I'm not really interested. See you later. Take the money, let him go.
Aye. Great point, mate. Great point. Kaiser, disrespect to fans. You know, your days are numbered after that. And the adulation that Jota got when he came in as well, I don't think he was too happy about that. That sort of came out that was the case. What's your thoughts on the massive profit that we've got on Kuhn, mate? It's unbelievable money, really, for a guy that cost £3 million 18 months ago.
Yeah, for a guy that cost £3 million, had his wisdom teeth removed and then reached a stage where I thought his wisdom teeth grew back, bro. Absolutely fantastic business. His celebration where he's like, all the talk about me. That's all it said to me. And in my opinion, I thought myself, I seen him drop off. He went from a leaf dancing on the wind, spectacular, beautiful, unstoppable, to a house brick in a washing machine or tumble dryer. He just basically, without saying he'd down tools, it looked like he'd down tools to me. He was not happy to be here. He was disappointed in not receiving the adulation of the fans. I don't know how many songs we could sing that rhyme with Kuhn. I certainly wasn't intelligent enough to think it went fast enough for him. He wanted it there and then. He didn't like when Jota came back. And no wonder Jota received the adulation that Jota received. Such a fantastic player for us. Been through a torrid time, returned to the club, returned to the loving arms. I was singing a bit of Sam Cooke. These arms of mine. Let me cuddle for Jota. I was giving it all. I love Jota. I think he's fantastic. I demonstrated that by picking him for the left wing until the legend that is Tommy Burns was up there. And Daisen Maeda as well. That's who eventually picked him for the spot. Tommy picked Daisen and him. But fantastic business, and Andy's spot on. You want to see this cash reinvested. I did a little Google search myself, and I know Google is not the paramount legends, right? It's not the paramount of information, but it's got an AI search feature. You just type into Google, what's Celtic's bank balance right now? And it's believed to be in the region of 86 million before we sold Kuhn. Before the Frimpong money comes in, before the added bonuses for Matt O'Reilly come in, We are sitting pretty. Why have this money in the bank and pay tax on this money when we can have it on the field? We can have it extending my legend in Europe. We can have it crafting out results. We can have it out there working. That's the difference between capital that's stagnant and capital that's working. I certainly hope that the board look at this, look at the money that we've got in and reinvest it in the squad. I have seen links to a young player from Liverpool, 15 million, can't remember his name, got excited about it, can't remember his name, and it's 15 million. So I must not have been that excited, but yeah, the George Michael Jota, 100% legends. But on Kuhn, I loved him when he was performing. People saying he's a one-trick pony, he only cuts inside. Then I was arguing and saying, well, there's no one to cross the ball to. There's no one finishing in the centre. There's no Kyogo on the front post, and there's no somebody with aerial prowess and heading ability to finish these chances. So I can understand cutting inside and taking a shot. No, he's not, because he'd be like a human pretzel. He'd be rolling upside down. He's got 2 belly buttons, the same as Kaiser, and both of them are in his. Isn't that right, Andy?
Sorry, mate, I'm trying to work out how to put this link for
Somebody
the stream in the chat.
Somebody accused you in chat of looking at wee Andy.
They're just ripping into you in the chat, mate. I'm not going to say what they said. So Nicholas Kuhn is for the Offski and we'll take the money. Fair dues.
Yeah.
Some more news coming out of the club today, lads. We don't have to have a chat about it, but Naroki is away to Hanover 96 on loan with an option to buy. So one defender out and one in. Patrick, Hayato Inamura has just signed a 4-year deal today at the club. Again, somebody we spoke about on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. We did say he was coming in. He's now officially put pen to paper. Where do you see this guy fitting in? He looks like a left back, left centre half sort of position. Do you think he'll be the understudy to Kieran Tierney, mate? And how do you think the boy looks as well?
Listen, Scott, you can only go by the video clips that we've watched of him. He looks to have a fantastic left foot. There's no doubt about that. I watched some of the 60, 70-yard passes that he was spraying from one side of the field to the other. My only concern with all those Japanese players, especially anybody who is a defender, is I'm just not sure if they're up to the physicality. We saw that with Kobayashi, who from the day I seen him, I just knew he was never a centre half and he wouldn't last in Scotland. But this guy looks to be a cracking player. His team, they played with a 3 at the back. They played with 3 at the back, and he was the left side of that 3. So he has played over there. For me, he's only been a professional footballer for less than a year. He doesn't really have much big game experience, but as we said before, he's coming into a team who are managed by a guy who's developing young players as his forte. So Brendan has obviously spotted something, and somebody else mentioned that to me this evening, that it's good to see that our Japanese scouting system must still be working even after Big Ange has long gone. So the processes that we put in place to look at those leagues out there and try and bring stars from there is still working very well. So listen, I'm prepared to give the guy a go, Scott. Listen, sometimes people write people off because they don't cost £10 million. But none of us had heard of Kyogo, none of us had heard of Maeda or Rio Hatate before we signed any of these guys, and look how they turned out. So I'm prepared to give the guy a chance. From what I've seen, he looks very, very cultured left foot. So it could very well be that he's maybe he's been earmarked more for a left back position than a left centre back. Who knows? We won't know until we get a chance to see him. But he definitely looks as though he's delighted to be here. It didn't seem to take Celtic very long to do the deal. He played his last game at the weekend, and then he was basically on a plane to London. So the guy's obviously keen to get here and sign for a club like Celtic. So it's just another bit of good business, and nice to see another body coming in. And we need that, Scott, because with Big Nawrocki going out there, looks like the end of the road for him. For whatever reason, again, Brendan just didn't seem to fancy him. There was one of the European games, I think it was at Villa Park, he actually brought Dean Murray on. You know, instead of Nawrocki. So there's something there between Rodgers and Nawrocki that just doesn't add up. Brendan has never come out and actually said what the problem is, but there is an issue there. So good luck to the big lad, you know, but hopefully that will be the end of the line for him. He'll get a loan move there with an option to buy at the end of the season. So hopefully that sorts his career out, because he needs to go and play as well. At his time, he needs to be playing. But no, I'm delighted to see the Japanese guy coming in. I think he'll be another worthwhile addition. Again, as I say, we're buying young players, we're buying quality players. You know, so let's just look and see what he brings. But very excited to see another one of the Japanese lads.
Aye, and Andy, I spoke to you in the green room about this. I watched his interview and a few things struck me. One is he spoke about the Japanese players and Nakamura in particular, and he's actually took Nakamura's number of 25. And another thing that he said that struck me is he wants to be better than any Japanese player that Celtic's had. That was his exact statement. So very confident for the young man. I like that. I like that in a young player coming in. I think Osman was the same, mate, when he had his interview. I know you've had a look at him on YouTube, mate, and you know MD can look good on YouTube. But what are you making of this young lad so far, and where do you see him sort of fitting into the squad, mate, as well?
Obviously, only seen what I've seen on YouTube. It looks very comfortable on the ball. Great range, especially a diagonal ball, long range ball. The only problem I've got with that isn't the type of game that Brendan plays. You know, it's more the shorter game between the defence and the midfield and then on to the forwards. We very rarely play the long ball. So that might be a bit of a waste. I've not seen him hit a ball in all these clips. He looks a very good tackler. He looks as if he's got a bit of pace about him as well, that bit of drive as well about him.
Good tackle.
So I think he's obviously a young guy. He's not played a lot of kind of professional games, I would say. Well, at any kind of half decent level, I think his team get relegated, didn't they? So I think defensively that's a wee bit concerning. I think he looks good, but obviously you mentioned the physicality. I like his confidence, the fact that he thinks he can come in and be the best Japanese player we've had, because we've obviously had Nakamura, Kyogo, got Hatate here at the moment. We've had guys that haven't worked it, but I'm pretty sure Kuhn came in and said that as well, that he's going to be the best player at the club, and it was not long after that, it was out the door. So hopefully we get this right. I think obviously we're tapping back into that Japanese market, which I totally understand. I think Celtic need to capitalise more commercially in that end of the world, which I don't think they're doing enough of. Use Nakamura, use his name and his stature earlier to, you know, promote Celtic and make it aware that we've got a big Japanese contingent here at Celtic. So I don't think they do that enough. But I would say that obviously the physicality could be a problem. I've not seen him head on the ball. I don't think he's the tallest in the world. So that would maybe be a bit of a concern. And all right, we got him for a good price, so that would maybe put people off thinking that what kind of stature of player are you getting at that price? Obviously, Celtic's model are getting them in cheap, improving them, and then eventually selling them on for a hefty profit, which they've done very well. But they need to be a success when they're here to sell them on, really. So we just need to wait and see. I think, you know, we've got Trusty in that position and Scales. So I would say the fan base only convinced with Trusty or Scales. Probably the trust Scales more than Trusty, to be honest with you. But that's a guy you've spent £6 million on. Is it somebody we're just going to fire out the door and just wash our hands of him? I'm not quite sure if that's going to happen. He might obviously get another chance this season. But he can also cover at left back as well. So maybe they're looking at it to cover in maybe a couple of areas there, especially with KT, because obviously Taylor's away. You could look at Mitchell Frame, could maybe come in and cover there, but you know, you're taking your chances there as well. And I don't want to go on about KT's injury kind of history, but it's a possibility that he could get injured and then you've really got nobody there at all. So the fact that you've got a guy who's very inexperienced coming into a league he doesn't know, If he did have to come in and cover at left back, I think we're taking a chance there as well. Because obviously, I spoke about the whole Keegan kind of situation. That was also an area that was targeted because of Taylor. For that kind of reason, his stature, his physicality. So, but give a boy a chance, he's here. So it'll be interesting to see in the pre-season games exactly how he gets on. And just need to wait and see. But for what I've seen him, he looks a half decent player, aye.
Kaiser, I've had a really good look at him on YouTube. I don't really get my chance to say much, obviously hosting the show. So, I do try and do my research on a lot of things. And he's a good passer, he's a good tackler, he's fast. He can play the short balls, he can play the long balls. As Andy said, he can play the big diagonals. I think he's a very, very good, he looks a very good left back. I think we've got a good signing here, mate, for 300 grand. It's the risk and the reward for this for me is, it's outweighs everything else. 300 grand for a very good backup to Kieran Tierney is good business for me.
Yeah, for me, Scotty, if you don't back yourself, who's going to back you? So I love the fact that he comes in with confidence. He backs his own ability. Rio Hatate, when we signed him, was playing left back, and now he's a left midfielder. So there's no telling where we're going to deploy him. His range of passing, his ability, his pace. I understand long range passing doesn't really affect against teams playing the low block. But when teams are attacking us and we win the ball in defence, being able to spray the ball 60 yards, that will really affect, that will bypass midfield and complete the transition. You don't always need to play it along the ground. You can just bypass midfield straight over the top, drop that ball in behind and use the pace that we've got on the wings, either penetrating for the right-hand side, the left-hand side, dies in Maeda through the middle. Who knows what we were going to play? Who knows how Brendan is going to deploy him? Looking at his build, I can understand why people would look at him and think he's slight off frame. He's kind of built more like Kyogo than really a big rough and tumble centre back. But maybe that's just our prerequisite and our constructed minds that think this is the way a centre back should be built. They should look like Dane Murray. Perhaps him being the skillful player and mopping up behind someone who goes and wins the ball like Dane Murray. Put big Dane Murray in front of him like a big freight train, the big Siberian Express, a big Ivan Drago running in there, challenging every ball, a big Bobo Baldi, and then this guy's here at the back, just like Luggy, Nubrum, traditional sweeper, without lining up in that role. Me personally, I think you're spot on, Scotty. I think he's going to be in here primarily to play as Katie's understudy. I think he's going to be out in the left back area.
Yeah.
If not him, then I can see Trusty playing left back as well. He's a left-sided player. Liam Scales, right? I seen someone comment about Liam Scales and says Leonardo Scalacci has jumped every hurdle that's been placed in front of him. He's the Irish ginger Shergar. Every hurdle that's placed in front of the guy, he leaps it with ease, winning awards for man of the match in the Champions League. Every ceiling that people put on this guy, he smashes through it and just keeps going. Who am I to say Liam Scales is not good enough to play for Celtic? One thing I know for sure is I was never good enough to play for Celtic. I was never good enough to lace those players' boots that are playing right now. Even people like Scott Bain and substitutes and the youth team, I'm not even good enough to lace any of the guys' boots. So who am I to say? I don't know where the future holds. I admire Inamura's confidence. I admire the fact that he's saying, even given that Shinsuke Nakamura was at Celtic and could actually thread the eye of a needle with a mitre delta, he's going to be a better Japanese import than him. That is some bold claim to make. And Andy's 100% correct. When you've got someone like Nakamura who has an affinity for the club, that screams to me, pay this man as our head Asian scout. All across Japan, all across South Korea, all across Asia, Nakamura's name is known. I think Nakamura actually means family, or Naka means family in Japan. It's one of the first words children learn when they go to school in Japan. It's Nakamura. And don't quote me on that because it's probably not true. But we should certainly be using Nakamura's prowess and pull as a professional footballer, and someone who made it on the European scene at the highest level. We all remember the goals he scored for Celtic against Edwin van der Sar, one of the top keepers in the entire world at the time, and he absolutely put it on a postage stamp. We all remember the clips of Nakamura smacking the ball through a moving bus window, the kind of things that people would do nowadays, but they would use AI graphics to implement that. They wouldn't be able to pull off the actual thing as a professional player. So for Inamura to be saying that he's going to be the best Japanese import we've ever had, with the ability of Rio Hatate, when the guy's still dining out on one pass from a throw-in in the Champions League versus Real Madrid, in a game at the end of the day that we lost, but the fact that he received that ball and in the one motion turned and passed it the width of the stadium to the other side, Hitachi's still dining out in that to this day. So the fact that Inamura is coming in with that kind of confidence, I've seen someone else say, how do you know that he's not a Bruce Lee type? How do you know he's not going to one pinky punch somebody to the kidneys? And I always say, give him the old shabba, give him the thumb right up the starfish, shabba, right in about him. How do we know he's not that kind of guy? I don't know, but he's piqued my interest, and I want to see what he's all about. I'm actually rubbing my hands here. I'm like a fly. I'm like a fly on the wall. You know what I mean, mate? He's piqued my interest with that kind of confidence. My dad took me to a bar when I was a young guy, and he said, see the big blonde woman at the end of the bar, Martin? Who's she going home with? And I said, I don't know, Dad. And he said, no, you if you don't go over and talk to her. So it was a lesson in back yourself, have confidence in yourself. Why do you see wee ugly men with big, beautiful blondies? That's because they men have confidence. And they ladies are sitting there lonely.
Or money.
Quiet. Money helps as well. Look. There's only so much Rod Stewart you can cover up with money, Andy, all right? There's only so much Rod Stewart you can cover up with money. There's exercises for being a fat bastard. There's no exercises for being an ugly bastard.
I just want to touch on the comment that was made about the link for the stream. So I've actually put it in the community page on YouTube for this stream. If we're still doing it, if somebody wants to pop on for a wee chat after the pod, aye. So that's in the community post. Okay, I've posted that in the community. Right,
no worries at all. So moving on then, lads. Let's just have a quick look at the Celtic squad as it stands then. I've not put the new Japanese left back in, but the rest of the team is as stands. Naroki is now obviously off ski as well. This was done today. Looking at that squad then, Paddy, give me 3 positions that we certainly need to, if you could make 3 signings tomorrow, whereabouts in that squad would you be making those 3 signings?
Right up the middle of the team, Scott, for me. Right through the spine of the team. We definitely need, as far as I'm concerned, we need some kind of an answer to the Cameron Carter-Vickers conundrum. Listen, I love Cameron Carter-Vickers, but we just simply cannot go into another season just relying on this guy. He's becoming a bit of a liability, to be quite honest. The number of games that he misses through injury over the last 12 months and maybe beyond. It just seems every time we have a big game coming up on the horizon, he's the one struggling with an injury, and then when you think also the fact that we're going to have 3 teams now with plastic pitches. Yeah, so there's 3 teams and there's 6 games away from home, twice against each of those 3 opponents that you're probably going to have to leave Cameron Carter-Vickers out because of his knees and ankles and stuff like that. So I really do think we need to look. If we're going to if we consider that Cameron Carter-Vickers is our number 1 first choice centre half, we need another big bruiser in there to support him because Nawrocki's gone, and it really only leaves you with Liam Scales and Austin Trusty, and then if you even want to go down further, you can include Stephen Welsh, who for me again is not good enough, and it's just absolutely ridiculous that we could be looking at we could be looking at going into a Champions League qualifier with somebody like Stephen Welsh or, you know, in the centre of defence if some of the rest of these guys are not available. So definitely for me that we need to invest in a top quality first team ready centre back. No more of these projects and things. Somebody who's ready to go in there and make the position his own and be the partner for Carter Vickers, and then let Liam Scales and Austin Trusty fight it out for the position. The other one for me is right in the middle of the pitch again. I think we're well enough covered in midfield in terms of numbers, but the one thing that we do like, somebody actually put it in the comments there that we got bullied by Rangers last year in the middle of the field in practically every game we played them, possibly except the very first one. We were absolutely bullied by them in the middle of the field. They bullied us completely. So I would like to see us signing somebody who has a bit of dig to sit in there in the middle of the field and play alongside Callum McGregor and give us something different. You know, Engels, I think, will be a cracking player. Bernardo is a fantastic player. We all know what Rio Hatate can do, and Luke McCown, this is an important season for him. But there's none of those guys who I would consider to be a ball winner, Scott. There's no, there's no ball winner there. We need somebody we need a Neil Lennon type player or a Roy Keane type player. We need somebody, Victor Wanyama. That's the kind of player that I think that we are seriously lacking, and we were exposed last year too many times. And then the last one for me is simply up front. I don't know that Callum Osmond is going to be the man. He certainly claims that he wants to be. Again, we haven't seen him playing, so we'll need to wait and see. Johnny Kenny for me is simply not good enough. Plain and simple. There's no other way of looking at that. So the very fact that he's been linked with other clubs tells me that Celtic are prepared to let him go. And again, Aramida, the jury's still very much out on Aramida for me. He doesn't score enough goals for the chances that we create for, playing for a team like Celtic and playing especially in the SPFL. It should 25, 30 goals should be a given for any number nine. Any number nine who has any worth of ability should be able to come up with 25 or 30 goals. So for me, I think we really need to be looking again at, going out and buying a top class striker. I saw today that the guy Kisgarten or whatever you call him that we were being linked with, he's supposed to go into Norwich. You know what I mean? So whatever happened to this? Whatever happened to them looking for 13 million for this guy or whatever? You know what I mean? So those would be the three positions for me, Scotty, right up the middle: centre back, centre midfielder, and a striker.
Okay, mate. Andy, yourself?
I'm looking at that. We certainly need a striker. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I know Osmond's come in, but Kenny could be away. We're relying on Ida and a boy that hasn't played first team football yet. So definitely a striker for me. A left winger. Jota's going to be out to possibly the new year, or the new season. You've got Maida out there as well. He could get injured at any point, and then you're really threadbare there when it comes to that position. I think that's something we need to address. And then you're looking at the right wing as well. James Forrest is the tail end of his career. We can't rely on him forever. Yang could be away, so then you've got Niger in there, so you need a bit of backup there as well. Yeah. I think we definitely need a bit of steel in the midfield. I was just looking at Inamura, and I was also thinking that I think he could do a job in midfield as well. See, with his tackling and stuff like that. Obviously, the header's a problem in it when you're actually aerial challenges in Scotland in the midfield is a problem. So possibly no there, but we certainly need a unit, a Wanyama type physicality player, an enforcer, but also somebody that's good on the ball as well, not just a hammer thrower. So I think that's something we need to address. And I agree with Paddy when it comes to CCV. He's looking a wee bit built out of Weetabix, don't he? It looks as if he could crumble at any moment. Somebody that's been super reliable for us, but also been missing in some really integral big games for us as well, Champions League, things like that. And the fact that we're going to be playing on these artificial surfaces at least 3 times this season, that's games that he might miss out on to prevent injury. That's not including the games that he might be injured in, so we could be missing him more than what we have been used to seeing big Rockies away, so we're also kind of vacant in that area as well. We need to up our game when it comes to that position. Obviously the Inamura coming in, then we've got 3 in that kind of left centre back position. Can he cover KT? Obviously, we need to address that as well. So you're still looking at least maybe 4 bodies to come in the real quality, I would say. Yeah. So there is still a bit of work to do. Now, we're already played our first game in the pre-season. All right, it's against Queen's Park and a lot of the young ones played, but I think we need to, I really do think we need quite a few bodies in and real quality that are not only going to be good backup, but push the players on as well to try and take their jersey off them, because that's the only way you're going to improve as well. So young prospects only going to come in and really push first team regulars. I wouldn't say anyway, because know the way Brendan Rodgers works, he works on reliability and players that he knows very well. So I think we need to up our game in this transfer window. There's no point in saying, let's hold on, we'll get through the qualifier and see what's happening in January. We've got the money there. Use it. Strengthen us. This is the time to do it. Don't leave it too late. Don't leave us in the lurch. Just get it done. Surely, if the recruitment's doing their job right, they must have quality players there in their eyesight that we can capture.
Aye, Kaiser, it looks quite threadbare, really, mate, doesn't it, when you actually look at it? Where do you think that we need to strengthen, mate?
Yeah, there's glaring weaknesses there, bro. I seen somebody say there that Yang is dug meat. Just lucky for us, he's won a lot. That kind of dug meat. Left back for me, we need cover in left back. Definitely need cover in centre back. Maybe Brendan's thinking Naroki can go out and Lagerbielke can go out. And we've got Dane Murray coming in there to pick up the slack from Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales and Trusty at the centre. For me, I would be looking to adjust the formation. I would be playing a 3-4-3 and moving Callum McGregor in a more advanced position and letting him link up with Nygren, playing Nygren centrally. Certainly changes the dynamic. And Paddy as well, that was one of the main philosophies of a Martin O'Neill side, is having a strong spine. When you've got a strong spine to the side, everything else comes off of that. So for me, a central midfielder, an absolute destroyer who breaks up challenges, goes in challenge, wins the ball, aerially good in the air, and good on the ground, wide array of passing. And Nygren sort of fits that mould. Freeing Callum McGregor to push further forward. Everything else, right, other than a left winger maybe coming in, maybe Baligwisha coming in, and a striker that really strikes fear into the heart of European defences. Not a striker who is a project player or a championship player, or a striker that really, when you see that name on the team sheet, you think to yourself, right, we need to put two men on him. Like when teams used to double up on Henrik Larsson, that lets someone else exploit the space and be free. Andy's spot on as well. For me, just looking at it here, I did say before that Celtic would be bringing in at least 5 squad players to be depth and strength from the bench, but also 5 first-team starters. I can see Kieran Tierney's come in. He needs backup, so you can put that in the squad players and developmental players. Cameron Carter-Vickers, as Andy says, looks like he's made out of Jacob's crackers, primed to break at any moment. It looks pretty threadbare when you look at it like this, especially the injury to Jota as well, not knowing when Jota's going to be back. Players that are still to go out, players that are still to be brought in, but it's a long window, legends. It doesn't shut until the 1st of September. And for the first time in a long time, I've got to say, I back Brendan Rodgers, and I back the board to do right by Brendan Rodgers and bring the talent in where it's needed, to spend the money where it's needed. All the early signs have sort of had me, if I didn't have the plan in my mind that we were going to bring in so many squad players and then so many first team players, I would be absolutely pulp for pillar to post and raging about the business that we've done so far. I'd be like, right, we've brought in Kieran Tierney and Nygren. We've brought in 2 good signings, in my opinion, and the other 3 are project players. If you discount Doohan as a second or third string goalkeeper. But other than that, I'm really buoyant by our financial robustness, our ability to spend money. And as I don't know if it was you who said, Paddy, about Kritzgarden, And I always say, I beg your pardon, I never promised you a cricket's garden. The fact that these players or these clubs are trying to hold us over a barrel because they think we have money to burn, and then they end up going to Norwich, it kind of reeks of Van Hooydonk's son. Remember, we were going to bring him in, and then he ended up going down south and being an absolute flop. Maybe the board, I trust them. I trust the scouting team we have right now. I trust the ability they've got. And let's just say, when you're downloading a small upload on your PC, it takes 10 minutes. When you're downloading a big upload, it takes an hour. When you want to sign first team regulars and lock them in, it's going to take a longer period than it is to bring in these squad players who are happy to come in, happy to be here, happy to make the step up. But I wouldn't be too negative about it, but certainly looking at the squad right now, entering pre-season friendlies, it does kind of stink a bit of Nurbittens playing centre-back again on a Champions League qualifier. I would like to see the board roll the dice. Rather than be reactive, I'd like to see us be proactive. Roll the dice out there and bring these players in that are going to secure Champions League qualification. It's what, 60 odd million pounds coming into the club, 40 odd million pounds. And I understand that's a big gap between 60 and 40. It's a 20 million gap, but I understand, like, you need to know that that's available. You need to know that this is the first time in a few years that we've been playing a qualifier, and we certainly need to go and secure that. We need to bring in my opinion, at least 5 first team starters. And I don't care if they're at the price region of Arne Engels, 10 million to 14 million, 4 of them, but one of them needs to be a marquee signing. One of them needs to be 20 million plus, strike fear into the heart of defences, tear teams apart, leave them unmarked at your peril. We need to present danger. We need to exude ability and danger, especially getting into these games where teams are going to think that they've just got us sussed. We just play a low block against Celtic, and when they run out of ideas, there's no way to craft it through. I always said about Kyogo, he was a sophisticated lockpick for unpicking European defences. But there comes a time when you need to know, don't use a lockpick, just kick the door off the hinges. And that's the kind of player we need, the kind of player that just kicks the door right off the hinges. I certainly hoped it was going to be Adam Ida. I certainly invested my patience in him and hoping he would come good. I've certainly not discounted him so far. I've certainly not completely counted him out. I don't think the players that we've brought in right now fill me with confidence heading into a Champions League qualifier. You could say we're kind of getting into a battle of cutlasses armed with spoons. Fair enough, you can do some damage with a spoon, but I would rather be armed with a samurai sword or some sort of gurkha, machete, some sort of other tool that fulfills that role. I would certainly rather have a French Eddie or a Dembele up front rather than Ida right now. And Ida being left a bit more time to develop and come good. But it remains to be seen. It's all in the air. I just don't want to judge Celtic. I don't want to be hypercritical. I don't want to be down on our transfer policy because clearly we're making money. Clearly we're making money hand over fist. So clearly the scouting process and the scouting ability is working somewhere. So I would like to think that we've got this sussed, that the irons, so to speak, are in the oven, or the irons are in the fire, and we're just ready to strike on those deals.
Let's see what happens, lads. It's gonna pan out anyway. We've got loads of time, like Kaiser said. So let's move on, ladies and gentlemen. The pre-season fixtures are looking like this. We've got Cork City up next. The boys travel over to Paddy's neck of the woods, and I'm not sure what's going to happen, if we're going to have a post-match show or we're just going to have an actual podcast. But that is us, ladies and gentlemen. We've only got one last thing left to do, and that is...
Last man standing.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have already picked our Four Leaf Clover podcast 11. We showed you earlier on, that's the team that the lads have came up with. But we have a manager to pick, and the lads are going to pick him for us now. I've got 10 managers for them to go through. And I've been a wee bit naughty here with what I've done. The first manager, Paddy, that I have got for you this evening is Brendan Rodgers. Now, I'm going to test your loyalty here, gentlemen, and see how far Brendan Rodgers can get through the rest of the managers. So the lads will pick the manager tonight on the podcast because there's 3 on the panel, but we want your, obviously your opinion as well in the comments. Let me know who you would pick. So can Brendan Rodgers make it all the way to the end? I've been a wee bit naughty here, I think. So Brendan Rodgers, Paddy, is up against, first of all, Wim Jansen. Who are you picking and why?
Well, two legends for very different reasons, Scott. Wim Jansen, obviously, for the stopping of the 10 and that never to be forgotten season. Came in relatively unknown. I was fortunate enough to remember him actually playing in the Dutch team in the 70s. Cracking player he was too, along with the Cruyffs and the Neyskens and guys like that. So I had no doubt about his pedigree whenever he came to Celtic as a manager. But it was a massive season for us that year. That Wim Jansen and Murdo McLeod had an enormous job to do to stop that all-conquering Rangers team from going and doing the 10, and they did exactly that. But listen, for me, it has to be Brendan Rodgers on this one, Scott. Love Wim Jansen, loved everything about him, but you can't argue with what Brendan has done since he come in. There's no doubt about that. Treble after treble, doubles. We saw the progress in European football last year, and that's what Brendan craves. And the one thing about Brendan for me, you maybe didn't see Wim Jansen long enough to see it, but Brendan's development of players is probably second to none. So I love Wim Jansen to bits, but for me, it's going to be Brendan Rodgers.
Okay. So it's quite split in the chat, actually, and a few people are saying Jock Stein. It's managers we've seen, ladies and gentlemen. So Jock Stein isn't in the list, so don't think he's going to come out at the end as some big surprise, because that's not going to happen. Andy, Wim Jansen or Brendan Rodgers, very split on the chat, to be fair, to start us off. So is Brendan Rodgers going to make it past the first hurdle for you?
Wim Jansen, obviously iconic, stopped to 10. Wasn't here for very long. Won the double. So he's going to be remembered for that. Was also a very good player. Let's be honest. Kind of came out when he came to Celtic. It was a bit of a surprise. I think he was in Japan at the time, actually, coaching when we brought him in. So pretty unfancied, but came in and was up against a very strong Rangers side at that time. So I think he done well to obviously stop them getting the 10. That was the most important thing. But yeah, then you're looking at Rodgers and the invincible treble, but technically 2.5 trebles he got in his first spell. I know Lennon came in and kind of finished that off. We ended up with quadruple treble. But then he's had another treble and a double, and the guy's an absolute serial winner. He's been fantastic for Celtic in a period where we've absolutely dominated Scottish football. For me, it's a no-brainer. It's definitely Brendan Rodgers that takes it for me. He's done so much for Celtic when it comes to putting us up there, and especially his first season, some of the football was just scintillating, absolutely destroying teams that nobody could touch us. Probably downside to Brendan, I would say, is probably his European kind of side that's let him down with Celtic, but we've not done a lot in Europe since Martin O'Neill, I would say, when he took us to the final in Seville. So nobody's really kind of lived up to that since Martin O'Neill. And then obviously Jansen before that, never really done much. He was only here for the year. So for Brendan, it's me. For me, it's Brendan, sorry.
Okay. So, Kaiser, Brendan Rodgers has the manager's office, shall we say, at the minute. But you're making a case for Wim Janssen?
Yeah, Wim Janssen, absolutely fantastic. I remember my best friend, right, he's synonymous with Celtic, actually a goalkeeping coach for the ladies team at one point. History maker. He's in the history books for winning the title with Celtic ladies. He's got his trophy and everything. He's got his medal. He's showed me it. He enjoys showing it off. But I enjoy telling him that his mum had the same hairstyle as Wim Janssen. It was the Cafe Heinz, as we called it. Absolutely outstanding manager. And as people were saying in the chat there, he gave us Henrik. He brought Henrik into the club. But realistically, what the guys have said is 110% accurate. Brendan El Rato Rodgers, the beautiful, beautiful people, coming back to Celtic as well. His first stint, what he brought to the club, the guy just made trebles seem ordinary, like a darts player. Just hitting a treble is just ordinary. It's an everyday affair. To the fact that last season when we only got the double, lots of us were very disappointed with that. But yeah, for me, I would have went the same way as the two lads. I hate to always echo and agree, but I'm the last I'm the last carriage in Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm going by this stage where we're going. But yeah, for me, Brendan Rodgers all the way. All the way for me.
Okay. Clean sweep for the lads. Brendan Rodgers keeps the manager's office as it stands. And I'll go around the table tonight, Andy. So I'm coming to you next, sir. Brendan Rodgers is now up against Dr. Joseph Venglos.
It's Rodgers for me. There's no competition when it comes to that. Nice man, very nice man, and a good coach apparently, but no for me. I think there's no competition there for me. Easy Rodgers.
Okay, mate. Kaiser?
Yeah, I love Dr. Joe. The same as Wim Janssen gave us Henrik Larsson. Dr. Joe brought us a gift from God and Lubomir Moravcik. So the same could apply right there. You could look and say Dr. Joe, like he gifted us the tools to go on and dominate in later periods and gifted us that joy in my life. But yeah, for me, still Brendan Rodgers. I think Brendan Rodgers is on a bit of a run here, bro. It's going to take a very special manager to shift them. And I've seen chat say that Big Jock and stuff, but there's no Lisbon Lions in this squad. Not even the manager.
Okay, mate. So, Paddy, Brendan Rodgers still has the manager's office, but you're making a wee case for the man that brought us the gift from God?
No, unfortunately, I can't, Scott. Lovely man. I was fortunate enough to meet him on a couple of occasions at Celtic Park. Lovely gentleman, lovely soft-spoken wee man. I felt a bit sorry for him when he first took over at Celtic Park. I think the media sort of the way the media carried on with him was embarrassing. Because he was a relative unknown and stuff like that. But you know, when you see he brought us Lubomir Moravcik, you could see that he had an eye for a player. But listen, as Andy said, on this one, there's no comparison. You can't compare. It has to be Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, it certainly does, lads. So Brendan Rodgers still is in the manager's office. And remember, it is managers here. It's not players. So managers that we've seen. Next one, Kaiser, is Billy McNeil. Billy McNeil or Brendan Rodgers as the manager of this team.
That is an absolute legend as well, bro. And a very good manager for Celtic as well. Done some real good work and some hard times for Celtic. You're a nasty guy, Scotty, so you are. You're a nasty guy. But we like you that way, my man. We like you that way. And the chat responds to it as well. Yeah, for me, it's still with the ability to build a legacy and everything he's doing right now. And I hope Brendan signs on and stays longer. But for me, I'm going to show my age here, right? And I'm going to be in Brendan. I trust, and Brendan, I'm keeping the faith. I'm staying with Brendan Rodgers, legends.
Okay. Patrick, are you going for Caesar as the manager or Brendan Rodgers?
I'm going to give Andy a dilemma.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to give Andy a dilemma. Listen, Brendan, you cannot take away from what Brendan has achieved and what he'll continue to achieve. But for me, Billy McNeill is an absolute Celtic icon, a Celtic legend. And he was getting a challenge at that time from a Rangers team that are far more stronger then than they are now and have been over the last few years. Very, very difficult time that he had. But wonderful man management. Fantastic representative of Celtic. Spoke up for the club. Spoke out on many occasions for the club. So for me with this one, I'm going to leave Andy with a choice. I'm going to go for Big Billy McNeill.
Okay. Just to clear this up, it's managers that we've seen in our time. No Lisbon Lions in the team and no Lisbon Lions manager, obviously, because we've never seen Jock as a manager, just to clear that one up. So, Andy, you have a massive decision to make already. Is it Brendan Rodgers as a manager or is it Billy McNeill as a manager? Who are you picking, sir, and why?
Very difficult. This is obviously iconic figure. I saw somebody saying the Lisbon Lions, but this is a manager position. So as much as Billy was a Lisbon Lion as a player, we're talking about managers here. So that's why Big Jock isn't included. 2 spells at Celtic like Brendan, took off for Big Jock. And that famous picture of Jock looking that's absolutely despondent when, they're shaking hands and he's in the middle of them and just looked absolutely devastated. But probably his first time at Celtic, I think it was actually it was a very difficult time actually because Dundee United, Aberdeen were quite on top of their game at that time, so it was a difficult time for Celtic. I don't even think any Rangers were anywhere to be seen at that point. That was the real competition there. It was between probably 3 of them, but they were very strong at that time. His second time coming in, Davy Hay obviously was between the spells and had the great 86 team, Davy Hay, and then Caesar came in, took her, and then we've got a centenary season, obviously what that means to the club and won the double and really iconic times, especially as a young guy growing up. It's times like that that stick in your mind. And it's such a hard decision to make. But I'm going to go with Brendan Rodgers here, and it breaks my heart to do it. But I think as a manager, obviously the success trophy-wise and stuff like that, and it's, as I said, it's a difficult decision for me because there's only one King Billy, and that's McNeill. And I loved him. I loved him at Celtic. I loved him. He's obviously the manager when I was kind of at times to really understand football. So, but I think Brendan, when you look at his trophy count and stuff like that, and what he's done at Celtic has been fantastic. Over 2 spells. So I'm going to stick with Brendan Rodgers. I know I might upset people here, but decisions got to be made, and it's I'm the last man.
Blasphemer.
So somebody was asking when the podcast is on, and it's his first time with us. I think his name was Scott as well. So thanks for that, Lorna. Yep, the pod is on Wednesdays and Fridays at 7 p.m. and you're very welcome. Please like, share, subscribe. Tell your pals.
We had a Monday as well, eventually.
Yep. So Brendan Rodgers still is in the manager's office, and we're back to yourself, Patrick. And he's now up against the man who gave us the Ronnie Roar.
Again, Andy will attest to this as well. It's a very easy one, Scott, but that doesn't detract from the fact that I actually loved Ronnie Dyle. I thought he was a fantastic guy. He had such integrity, just a real honest, hard working gentleman. I know there was a bit of controversy about the time of his appointment. There was all these stories about Neil Lennon and stuff and all that there, but listen, you can't argue with Ronnie Dyla-Dunn. He was there 2 years, delivered 2 championships, but there's no comparison between him and Brendan Rodgers. There's absolutely none whatsoever. So for me, it's Brendan on this one.
Okay, Andy.
I agree with Paddy. I liked Ronnie. I think it was a difficult time for him at times. You could see what he was trying to do. It didn't quite work out, and this is at a time when Celtic had the big banner, a club like no other, and a lot of the stadium was covered up because they couldn't get people to fill the seats, So I think he was up against it. He still got a lot of love for Celtic. You've seen clips of him, especially when he was in New York, watching Celtic with the Celtic top on and stuff like that. So I think that was an appointment that didn't quite work out for Celtic, but I still liked Ronnie, but absolutely no competition there when it comes between him and Brendan Rodgers. So it's definitely Brendan Rodgers for me that keeps that spot as a manager.
Okay, Kaiser, Brendan Rodgers still has the manager's chair, so he does. But are you making a case for Ronnie?
When Ronnie came in, I understand he was originally meant to be Neil Lennon's number 2. When he came in, he actually done very, very well as a Celtic manager. As you said, the Ronnie Roar, some of the best away days as a Celtic away support that I've ever experienced was under Ronnie. But at managerial capacity, achievements, what's been achieved by Brendan, very hard to beat. Brendan is like he's on a run here, because I'm agreeing with the lads as well. Brendan keeps the spot right here for me right now. And I did run away to the bathroom, legends, but I was back in time. Don't worry about it.
So Brendan Rodgers has the manager's office still. But I'm a dirty bugger when it comes to this game. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more managers, Andy, to try and keep out his office. I think his job might be on a wee sugary peg now for these next 5. Let's see. So decisions to make, lads. Decisions to make. Brendan Rodgers, Andy, is now up against...
You bastard. You say, Mr. Burns, Mr. Celtic, absolute legend, hero. I'll tell you something about Tommy Burns. That's the time he spent in charge of Celtic was some of the greatest football I've seen as a Celtic fan. The players he brought in, so exciting. Just lit the game up. Very unfortunate when it came to kind of winning stuff and things like that, Again, up against a strong Rangers side. Cheating bastards, right enough, but still, he had to try and do it. And obviously, only losing 1 game in a season and no winning the league was absolute travesty. And a lot of that was down to the flying pig, wasn't it? I think he said on his written on his tombstone that he broke his heart. This is that's so difficult. I think obviously I've spoken about Brendan's record with trophies and stuff like that, and really kind of fantastic record. There is absolutely no way I'm going to go against Tommy Burns, though. And it's not just because it's Tommy, but honestly, some of the football, and I know Brendan's first season was really good football. At times, it can be a bit hard to watch. Too tactical, too much possession based. But Tommy's football was it was rock and roll football, wasn't it? It was fantastic. He should have won more, and it obviously coming in just after the takeover. It was a difficult time because we had to really get our feet and build for there. So he was in the stages of building a team. I think he was sacked unfairly, to be honest with you. That was hard to take at the time. And I think mistakes were made after that. I'm going to go with Tommy Burns here. It's Tommy Burns for me, yeah.
Okay, some people are saying don't be sentimental. Lorna's saying, is Tommy not on the team? You do get player managers, Lorna. So, yeah, Kaiser, are you
Yeah.
going to give our Paddy probably the biggest decision that he's ever had to make on this podcast?
You know what's coming, legends, right? Scotty loves to write novels, and I love to give Paddy decisions, right? If Scotty was to write a new novel, it would be 50 Shades of Green. And I understand the sentimentality. Tommy twists, Tommy turns, Tommy burns. Some of the most exciting football I've ever seen in my life played by Celtic. I absolutely loved the football. At the end of the day, a bit too many draws. You need to stack it side by side. Managerial achievements, managerial ability. And I'm going to go with Brendan Rodgers, and I'm going to force Paddy. I'm going to force Paddy to make the choice. And I hope, despite confession and praising the Lord, that Paddy decides the right way. Sorry, Paddy, but it is what it is.
Paddy, it's such a difficult decision to make. I agree with what Andy said, but some people are saying, don't be sentimental. It's about being the manager of Celtic. His football was fantastic, don't get me wrong. But what did he win as the Celtic manager? This is what folk are saying. I'm not trying to sway the vote in any way.
Yeah.
But who are you picking to manage that beautiful, beautiful side?
It's a hard one, Scott. As I said to you the other night, I'm sitting here dressed in green and white, and Tommy Burns is the reason why. An absolute legend for me. My most favorite ex-Celt of all time. And the thing about him was, it was like his loyalty to the club. He bled green and white. Simple as that. The guy just lived for Celtic Football Club. It's as simple as that. Brendan Rodgers, what he's achieved. There's nobody can take that away from him. It's a hard one, Scott. I know some sentimentality shouldn't come into it. The one thing that would concern me with this team, if we were making the appointment, is Tommy fit to be a player manager in this team? He's going to be a player and a manager. I'm going to go for Tommy Burns.
Oh, Tommy Burns has now moved into Brendan Rodgers' manager's office. He had a good run, but the game is over for Brendan Rodgers. Tommy Burns now has the big chair.
See you later, you wee rat.
Disappointed, Paddy, when sentimentality beats ability. Oh, jeez. Actually, I had it here. I was like, I know it's a legend. I know it's Tommy Burns. I've got him behind me here, mate, pointing at the new Messiah with a bottle of Hunteers. I thought you were going to go the same way as me. I thought you were going to put Andy in his place for voting sentimentality.
I can't see past him. I just can't see past him. And
the thing is,
Tommy Burns would never, ever, for any reason, have turned his back on Celtic supporters or on Celtic Football Club. Just wouldn't have happened. No doubt about that.
Tommy Burns would have chose Brendan Rodgers, and he'd have been happy with his place on the wing.
Right. Kaiser, the decisions get tougher, as you know.
Give us it, my man.
Tommy Burns is now up against another man that some people would call Mr. Celtic as well, Neil Francis Lennon.
They just don't get any easier, do they, Scotty?
They don't,
They
mate.
not get.
They don't.
With ginger hair, both of them with hearts of a lion, both of them Mr. Celtic. Neil Lennon, 2 stints at the club, and I always say to people, Peter Lawwell crawled out the shower room drain like Pennywise the Clown to offer Lennon the job again. And okay, the way it ended during an extraordinary season, probably something that we'll never see the likes again, a global pandemic and lockdown. It came to an end for Neil Francis Lennon. You need to consider, in my heart of hearts, what Lennon's went through, what he sacrificed, what he's went through as a manager, what he went through affected by support, by the influx of social media, by every Red Bar Rambo and keyboard warrior having their opinion, bullets and Play-Doh in the post labelled C4. You need to consider all that. You need to take that all on board. And his winning record, it's not just about Tommy Burns being a legend and playing some fantastic football or orchestrating fantastic football. It's about the full picture. And that's why I'm going to stick with Tommy Burns, to be honest with you. I can't pick Lennon over Burns. And if any of you two guys disagree with me, I'm just going to walk like this, right? And if you are standing in front of me, it's your own fault.
Okay, Patrick, who are you picking? Are you sticking with TB?
Two amazing servants for Celtic Football Club, Scott. Neil Lennon deserves enormous credit for the second time around coming in and taking over and finishing off that season when Brendan did his disappearing act. He achieved some stuff as a manager as well, but it's a very, very tough one, Scott. This is brutal. Absolutely brutal. For me, the overriding opinion on Neil Lennon is he sullied his reputation and he sullied his legacy by not bowing out when he should have bowed out. He eventually did it anyway, but he should have done it in September, October when we still had a chance to do the 10 in that COVID season. So I'm going to stick with Kaiser. I'm going to take the pressure off Andy in this, and I'm going to stick with Tommy Burns.
Okay, mate. Andy, would you have made a case for our Lenny?
Slightly, aye. Obviously, a couple of spells as a manager, very successful, especially in Europe as well. So had some really fantastic results.
Yeah.
And obviously had these issues with Celtic that you had to deal with, which I don't think anybody else has had to deal with, that kind of pressure on you as a player and a manager. With Celtic, again, another player that is in there in the team. Is there room for another player manager? I don't think so. I'm going to stick with Tommy Burns on this.
I love that. I love that comment there. This is scripted for EastEnders. We're going to get to the very last manager, and then Scotty's going to hit the doof-doofs. So do. Just got to turn that half and leave us all guessing. Sorry for interrupting, Andy, mate.
No, you're fine, mate. No, you're fine. So I'm going to go with Tom Burns here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very tough decision the lads had to make their honourable mention for our Lenny, obviously, as well. But TB still has the jersey now. Looking at this amazing team, there is 1, 2, 3 more managers, Patrick, that Tommy Burns has to try and keep the manager's hot seat off. Looking at this side, would you like to see Tommy Burns in charge of this side? Or would you like to see Ange Postecoglou?
Oh, that's bad. That is brutal. Oh, that's a tough one, Scott. Very, very tough. Andy will agree with me on this one, that probably the football we saw from Ange in his first season was probably as close to what Tommy produced when he had the three amigos. Oh, it's a tough one. That's so tough. As I say, Tommy's an absolute legend. Oh. And, you can talk as you like about Big Ange, going to Spurs. But I'm going to go with Ange Postecoglou on this one, just simply because of where we were when he came in. absolutely where we were when he came in. We were absolutely nowhere. We were on our knees. We were looking at possibly another period of Rangers dominance or whatever. And the big man came in, despite all the disrespect that he had to put up with from the media, and he just turned us around completely. Just transformed us completely. Transformed the kind of player that we were bringing in. So for this one, I'm moving away from the sentimentality, and I'm going to go with Big Ange on this one.
Yep, no, fair enough, mate. It takes balls to do that. You know, it does. It does. And Andy, is this time up for TB? He's already in the team. So, you know, we're not getting rid of him completely. He will still feature in the Four Leaf Clover podcast somewhere. Are you sticking with Tommy Burns over Big Ange?
Big Ange came in. Obviously, he had to kind of start from scratch in a way because of the COVID season. He had a lot of players to bring, which he done, you know, and it was difficult circumstances because of COVID. The crowds weren't there, you know, he had to do everything himself, really, when you think about it. Had this playing absolutely fantastic, rip-roaring football. No holds barred, just absolutely destroying teams. An absolute joy to watch. And Paddy's absolutely correct. The best football I've seen at Celtic since Tommy Burns, when it comes to entertaining football, was just absolutely superb. Ange came in and obviously had to build a team, but I think he was in a better position when it comes to strength. I think it was just one of the weird seasons where it just didn't work out for us. We still had quality in the team, by the way. You know, they players just didn't perform. I think Tommy was still building at that stage, and he was still adamant that he was going to play football in the right way. Again, I know a difficult time. And by the way, not just him, but you look at Paul McStayno at that time, that he went a long time without winning a trophy as well. And Peter Grant, that famous picture with Granty, where it means to players. Tommy's one of them. You know, as much as Ange embraces our club and was a very, very good manager, I simply can't go against Tommy because he was doing Ange ball before Ange. Yeah. It just didn't turn out trophy-wise for him. So I'm going to stick with Tom Burns here. And I love Big Ange and all the best to him. I think he's obviously went and won a European trophy when he was with Spurs. So he has been successful after. In fact, he's been successful everywhere he's been. But I'm not going to go against Tommy Burns here.
Kaiser, you've got the biggest decision of the night. The boys have flung it back on you for a change. I think this is the first time you've actually been in this position.
I think so.
Is it Costello or is it Tommy Burns for you?
No pressure.
You see this image behind me here, mate? This is the guy, the Silence of the Lambs, that Gio Sunis on Twitter actually made with my face because Ange Postecoglou signed my ball outside Ibrox Stadium. So gutted he was that Ange touched the Kaiser's ball. He was like, rubs the lotion on its skin or it gets the hose again. For me, legends, right? For the exact same reasons that I would be choosing Tommy Burns for memory, was the swashbuckling football, the reform, the change. And I do think if Tommy had more time, he would have brought even better football to Glasgow Celtic. But one thing I can be certainly sure of right here, right now in my heart is Tommy Burns would have loved Ange Postecoglou. He would have loved to have watched an Ange Postecoglou side. For Ange coming in and rebuilding the squad, not only for that, for the enduring legacy that he left behind as well. Okay, under Tommy, we had the three amigos, but the three amigos were out the door before we had a chance to make any sort of money from them. They didn't leave the club in a better position. One thing is definitely for sure, Ange Postecoglou left Celtic and he left us at the end of the season after a Scottish Cup win and a treble. And he left us in a better position, financially robust, financially strong. And just like Big Ange touched my ball, this decision is easy for me. Sentimentality's out the window. I'm very sorry, Tommy Burns. You'll be glad to know you're playing on the left wing and Ange Postecoglou side, because I'm going with Big Ange, mate.
Big Ange has taken over the job from our TB, who at the minute, Andy, he is going to be managing But is he going to be managing Tommy Burns for long? Because he's got 2 more managers that he's up against. And Ange Postecoglou is now up against Gordon Strachan.
Strachan came into Celtic, they really drastically cut the budget because when Martin O'Neill was there, he did spend big. So, you know, I think he done an absolutely fantastic job at Celtic, considering the conditions they had to work under, and done very well in Europe as well, actually, Gordon. A guy I couldn't quite take to 100%, even though he was a Celtic manager. But again, I'm sticking with Tam Burns here.
Tam Burns is off.
Burns is off, mate. It's Postecoglou.
Sorry.
Left the decision to me, mate. That's what happens.
I know. I've still got
the pressure's got there, aren't they?
I've still got TV in my mind. I'm going to go with Andrew on this, mate. Simply, it's probably the best comparison I can make to since Tam Burns is away to has the type of football he played. But I mean, Gordon did win some big games, had some cracking results, and as I said, he did work under difficult circumstances. Did wee Gordon? But I'll stick with Andrew on this.
Okay, mate. Kaiser, you're going to give our Patrick a decision to make here?
I'm very sorry, Patrick, mate, but I'm going to snatch the decision out of your hands. Not that I think it would be too hard a one to make. I understand engineered decline and what Gordon Strachan brought to the club with his man management ability. Always cited his away record in Europe as one of the most abysmal periods for Celtic. I never quite understood how 60,000 home fans could motivate our players to the type of success and ability. Then it's the manager's job to do that away from home. Gordon Strachan never really... I think the best thing Gordon Strachan done was bought Gavin Strachan a laptop and stuck him in at the club. For me, all the way, it's Ange Postecoglou. As I said, swashbuckling, exciting football. Never say die. We don't stop. I'm very sorry, Paddy, if you'd have went the other way. But for me, it's Big Ange. As I said, he touched my ball, mate. Tommy Burns touched my heart, but Big Ange touched my ball.
Okay, so let's find out. Paddy, who would you have went for, mate?
It's a relatively easy one, Scott, in that I think Gordon Strachan, I think because he was such an annoying player for Aberdeen, he was a real thorn in our side, and he was a much maligned character when he was an Aberdeen player, and I think a lot of people couldn't see past that when he got the job. But listen, you can't argue with what the guy done. I believe he was the first manager since Jock Stein to win 3 titles in a row. I'll need to check that, but I think he became the first Celtic manager to win 3 titles in a row.
Yeah.
So you cannot argue, but he just wasn't everybody's cup of tea. I think he wasn't great with the media either. He just wasn't great, and I think sort of a lot of our fans thought he was a bit arrogant and type of, but
yeah,
I liked him. I actually liked him as a manager. I liked but when you look back to some of the, when I think of Gordon Strachan, there the 2 things: he took us to the last 16 of the European Cup for the first time. But then he presided over the Art Media Bratislava fiasco as well. Mm-hmm. So that just sort of summed it up for me. And then again, there was the whole thing with Aidan McGeady. Like, he just didn't. He thought Aidan McGeady was a big time Charlie type of thing, and I don't think he was. I think McGeady was just a cocky lad. I don't think there was anything like that. So that rumbled on behind the scenes too. So no, for me, I would have been sticking with Big Ange on this one, Scott.
Okay. So Ange Postecoglou has got the manager's office at the minute. Let's just have one last look at this side. Is Ange Postecoglou going to manage this side for you, Kaiser? Or is this man going to manage that side?
Wow, Scotty. I knew it was coming. I was looking at the managerial prowess and who was being rolled out, and Martin O'Neill, like some of my fondest memories watching Celtic, some of our battles in Europe, everything we've done. Yet again, another character who I would define as Mr. Celtic. I would love to see Martin O'Neill employed right here, right now, as a director of football at Celtic to ensure the continuity within the exchange of managers and our buying players and things like that. Incredibly tough decision. I understand everything that Ange has brought to the club during like a time where we all seen it as a downturn and needing a rebuild, and everything that Martin O'Neill brought as well when he came in, the talent he brought, the results we had. It's taking us to Seville. For me, it's Martin O'Neill, mate. I'm very sorry, Ange. Doesn't matter. You touched my ball. Doesn't matter. It's out the window. It's Martin O'Neill for me, mate.
Okay, Patrick, are you going to be giving our Andy a decision to make, or are you sticking with Martin O'Neill, or are you going with Ange Postecoglou?
Oh, the circumstances in which both of these guys came into the club were very, very similar. They were picking up the ashes of disasters before them.
Yeah.
You had Ange coming on the back of COVID and failing to win the 10. You had Martin O'Neill taking over from the likes of John Barnes and Dr. Joseph Venglos on those experiments that didn't go well. But I have to say, Scott, of all the managers that we've had, and I include Brendan Rodgers in this as well, of all the managers we've had, I believe that Martin O'Neill is the manager that made the biggest impact on Celtic Football Club since Jock Stein. There's no question of that. When you think of the players that Rangers had at the time, and he was coming in to challenge a very, very strong Rangers side, just packed with internationals who'd been toying with us for a year or two, really, and to come in, and the memory for me of Martin O'Neill standing on the steps at Celtic Park, and just telling us exactly what we wanted to hear. I thought that was just absolute box office. Again, we were signing, thanks to Martin O'Neill and his insight and his contacts, we saw for the first time in a very, very long time, probably the first time ever, a completely different standard of player coming to Celtic Park. Players that we could only have dreamt of a few years ago. If Tommy Burns had players like Chris Sutton and, Alan Thompson, as opposed to some of the guys that showed no loyalty to him whatsoever, the three amigos for one, if Tommy had some of that, if he had the backing that from the board that Martin O'Neill got, and Martin built a team, as Kaiser says, that took us to a European final, and we came a whisker away from winning that final. We should have won that final. As James just says, you just think of the memories in that first season. That 6-2 game will live in the memory, long, long in the memory. That entire European run, Stuttgart, Liverpool, Blackburn, Celta Vigo.
Covered it on here.
Boa Vista. Martin was just unbelievable manager. And the thing I liked about Martin, that's the one thing I will say, Martin stood up for the Irish fans. He was one of us. He's from here. Martin's actually from the village of Kilrea, which is literally 12 miles from where I am tonight. His family are still there. And Martin knew the sacrifice that we make, and they knew the sacrifice that all the Irish fans made when it comes to kick-off times. And he fought Sky and he fought Celtic for on our behalf many, many times. So listen, I love Big Ange, no question about that. The big man will forever be in our debt, but I'm going to go with Martin O'Neill.
Well said, Paddy. Well said, sir. I really enjoyed listening to you there, mate. Andy, you've got the final word, mate. Who is it going to be and why? Although Martin O'Neill now has the office.
Sam Burns for me, mate. Sorry.
Andy's still back there.
He's not number 10.
Yeah, Ange obviously very successful, great football, and was a training ground manager. He was a training ground manager and worked with the players on the park with tactic stuff, what you wanted them to do. A great man motivator as well. Martin O'Neill was more a motivator. You know, he had these coaching guys there, Walford and stuff like that, me, John Robertson, to take up that side of it. You can see a lot of the influence that Clough, I forgot his name. That Brian Clough has had on his, you know, the way he manages. You can see a bit of a resemblance there with a lot of kind of a lot of his traits. I'm not going to try to say that word again. I'm all tongue-tied. So you can see it, you know, a very successful player as well. He didn't win the Nottingham Forest won it twice, but I think he only played in one of the games. I think he missed the other one. So a European Cup winner. A very pivotal time in Celtic's history. I think for that moment, that was really the basis is where we stand now. Celtic as a club, where the domination, it really started from that point. I just see a comment there. How many rums have you had? I've actually not had any, believe it or not. I might be able to speak better if I had a wee drink in me. I should have maybe done that. So I think it's there's cases for both, but obviously taking us to Seville, the teams we beat on the way there as well, ultimately unsuccessful, but up against a very good Porto side. And again, we're up to their tricks in that final, very hard to take. And you could see, you know, I always remember that image of Martin O'Neill just absolutely devastated after that game. You know, I think he was convinced that we were capable of winning it, and I think we were as well. You could see that with the amount of fans that went to Seville to support the team. A really important time when he took over the club, and just a true inspiration, a guy that will be a legend at Celtic for the rest of his life and as long as we're here. So for me, it's definitely Martin O'Neill. There is absolutely no doubt about it. He is the man.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, ladies and gentlemen, Martin O'Neill is the manager of the Four Leaf Clover podcast, starting 11. And what a side the guys have picked. Let me get rid of that. Oh, you got rid of it. Look at that team. Unbelievable. Andy will get Martin O'Neill right beside Henrik there on the sidelines, managing this side for Wednesday's podcast. That's us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for all your input tonight. I've got a week off now. My daughter's coming out to visit me on Tuesday, so I won't be with you next week. But the rest of the lads will be, so make sure you tune in and watch them on Wednesday and Friday. Paddy, thank you so much for your contribution this evening, sir. It was fantastic as ever. Kaiser, thank you so much as well, sir. And Andy, thank you too. And thank you all for watching and your contributions. It's been fantastic as ever. The lads will be back with you again on Wednesday night. Thank you so much and all the best.
Hail, guys.
Again, if anybody wants to jump in for a wee 10-minute chat or something, once the stream finishes, then the link is in the community page. So me and Kaiser will probably still be hanging about here for a wee 10 minutes or so. So jump in if you feel free. Cheers.
And behind me, lads, is one of the greatest players to ever play the game of football. And the other one is Pele, just so you know. Yep. The other one is Pele.
Absolutely. Take it easy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Smash that like legends.
Someday you